Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 21st, 2020. I've tried recording this video a couple of times, so hopefully I'll get through this time. Yesterday I posted a video. The graphic says investing in ourselves during challenging times, or healthy investing during crises. And I went through the various forms of capital that I invest in. Instead of the financial capital, say, what are your investments in? People will talk about the diversified portfolio, the indexed funds and all that. And a lot of people are crying now because of how terribly things have gone. We've lost, 3 years worth of growth in the market as a result of it. And so I talked in that video about all these other things that I invest in that are really, really as important as the financial investments that I make. And Mary asked, she said, thanks for the well thought out video chat. My husband and I are worried about the future. Both of us depend on being around people to make income through self-employed. We're just about to close on a house with room for growing vegetables, but I'm nervous about spending money on it after a marketing crash. Do you feel it's still a good investment to own our own home where we can start a real garden? All right, I'm going to give you a short answer and hopefully a long answer that won't be so with so many sidetracks, which I keep doing. So the short answer is, right now is a time you're at a caution light and you're driving and it's just about to turn red and you need to make a decision whether you should stop or make that turn or go through that intersection. I myself at this point in time would stop. And I'm not someone who's afraid of taking risks. If you've been following this channel here, I'm someone who isn't afraid of taking risks. And I am super excited that you're thinking about having your own home and growing your own food. That's super important. And I want to talk to you about goals, but I'm going to hold off for a second and just tell you, hopefully this will be quick this time, a little story about myself. So when I grew up with a low self-esteem and feeling that I had some really challenges in life. I didn't learn to read until I was 28 years old. I felt dumb. I was relatively poor when I got out on my own. My dad died really early in my life. He died when I was 16 years old, and he was dying for a period of time before that. My mother was really stressed out about everything, and she did some traveling after my dad passed away. So, and I didn't really have real goals or aspirations. I thought I'd just get a job and deal with things. And I had a car. I slept in my car enough winter nights in Oswego, New York, in the cold winters here. And then I had a porta camp that I could spend some time in. I spent time mooching off friends. Ultimately, I got married, and that didn't turn out too well. My kids came out of that marriage, who were wonderful. And that ended in divorce. But gradually after that, my wife, Thea, she also came from a broken marriage without any children. And she moved in with me here, and we lived in a mobile home. And then we gradually bought parcels of land from my mother over time until we bought up all of it. One of my brothers gave me one of his small parcels, just over an acre. Another brother sold his property to another person. That's changed hands a few times as well. So there's a couple of sections on our property which we don't own that our property borders around. And this is all an area that was depleted of its soil resources years ago. It's on top of gravel. It's all gravel mining around here. The town dump was right next door. But we decided this was a place we were going to make our homestead. We raised horses for a while. We ran a wildlife rehabilitation center here for a period of time as well. We both had really good jobs working for Miller Brewing Company, a beer manufacturer here in the States, and we worked in the canning manufacturing district. We built a passive solar home. My brother, during the time when he was doing his graduate work, getting his master's degree, he designed the thermal mass unit that goes below the house. He helped us take our dream of post and beam type of construction with cathedral ceiling, the house that we live in now, and help and make that super insulated with a large thermal mass with somewhat comparable to a masonry heating system in it, which is a very tall counterflow heat system in it, and I've gone over videos in that in the past. And that turned out to be such an amazing investment. It took years of work. My brother actually helped us build it. Lots of expense back then because we were buying insulation materials, polyisocyanurate, that was fairly, it's much more expensive today, but back then it was very expensive, and we needed all these layers. Everybody that we knew, the people we worked with, thought we were nuts. Just have somebody build a place for you. You aren't going to save that much through heating and cooling and all. And they were all wrong. The place that we built was, to this day, we often say, thank God for this. The high winds, the freezing cold temperatures outside, and it's so comfortable inside. And it doesn't really cost us anything to heat or cool the house. Huge investment of time, energy, and making sure we did everything right. We lucked out, my brother being an engineer and being capable of helping us with the whole process. It turned out to be amazing, worked out. I mentioned that we also, had we had a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation after having the horses that was taking care of orphaned and injured wildlife. And then we decided we don't want to work in a brewery anymore, in a can manufacturing place. We decided we're going to go off to school. Now, Thea already had her undergraduate degree, and she had a veterinary technician degree that she wasn't using working at Miller. Me, I had to learn how to read. I learned how to read when I was 28 years old. Then I went through a process of going through undergraduate work, and I've made videos about this stuff before, but things worked out. We both got accepted at Cornell University. We got our doctorate degrees. I went on and did an internship residency and was an instructor at Cornell as well. Then went to a private practice and developed a private practice where I practice internal medicine dealing with chronic debilitating disorders in patients and critical care management. And I never thought I'd ever want to leave that, but it was exhausting because I was the only doctor qualified to do that, and I was on call during the nights, during the day, I worked during the days. And that can be quite taxing, especially when the goals of other people who operate that business became more focused on profitability than the patients themselves. And ultimately, we decided to part ways, and I left, and I've been overjoyed since developing this site here. It's a homestead, but it's a future educational site where we'll have workshops. We'll do a whole variety of things, include having internships as well, where we can put people from universities and do research studies, and one of the requirements will be publications as well. So we can actually help to create information and make it more available to people all around the world, because that's the sort of person I am. I'm very analytical, I'm science-based, and I really want to get to the roots of things. Because we save so much money on our home, and because we manage things pretty darn well, we ended up being able to put in solar panels as well. So now we generate more electricity than we have. But one of the things I never anticipated would be, I knew that our taxes would go up incrementally every few years. The school taxes and the county taxes and all. But 2 years ago, they just basically almost doubled. And those are things that just happen, unexpected things. Now, and I'm sorry I'm giving this whole background bit here, but there's things that we know, and there's things that we don't know. And we can, if we go about things, what I would say wisely, and list all the things we know, list all of our goals and aspirations, and as we're doing this, we will identify things. You know what? This is one of my goals and aspirations that I don't have that much information about. All right, so I need to do some research and then find the best resources for doing that research. And there is a really good small series of videos created by Zach. So it's Zach and Jesse from Now You Know, and I think it's called Mind Walk, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And Zach, in that small series of videos, talks about using Google Sheets. It's similar to Excel, a spreadsheet to go ahead and help you to flesh out on sort of a timeline what your goals and aspirations are. So, and I say dream big. Don't think of any negativity when you're doing your dreaming with this. I don't care what other people say. All along the way, every single thing that we decided, from leaving Miller and deciding to go off to school, everybody said we were nuts. Everybody said I was nuts when I had left Miller and gone to undergraduate work. They all thought I'd fail right out. Everybody thought we were nuts when we were building our own home as well. So that's a good sign if everybody else thinks you're kind of crazy, at least in my experiences and all. So I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh, the Google Sheet. So if you watch Zach go through this process, he actually talks about the benefits and the practice of using a Google Sheet, getting all of the items down one column that on the far left side that are your various things: the geographic location, the climate that you want, the type of house you want, single story, two-story. You want to have rooms for growing food, like a room for seed starting. Whatever it is, based on everything that you've seen and you dream, look through magazines, go through YouTube videos, do whatever it takes to have an untethered dream machine doing this. You and your husband both do this. The good thing about Google Sheets, you can potentially share that with other people and have them give you some feedback on it. And you don't have to listen to their negativity, especially if they say, oh, that's impossible. I can't tell you how many times people have told me, that's impossible, that's nuts. I just don't listen to that unless I research it further and make sure that it's okay to pursue things. One of the things that I'm always doing through this whole process, I know that I'm not all knowledgeable. I realize that there's always I'm always lacking in some information that really gives me 100% confidence that I know what I'm doing with whatever it is. I want to feel confident that I do the research beforehand, to have as much information so that I know the process, I know all of the potential caveats and all this, but I always go into it knowing that this process may not be necessary, these materials may not be necessary, this information may be wrong. And believe me, when you practice medicine, you find out so many things that people have been publishing for years that is just plain wrong. Because science is always evolving. We're learning new things. Some of the assumptions that we made years ago are just erroneous. And that's the way to pursue your research. And I would pursue it every bit as much as anything. Like for me, learning medicine, that was a pursuit you wouldn't want to get in my way when it came to learning medicine. I really wanted to learn all that I could at whatever cost it was. And it was challenging for a family life when you're pursuing an academic dream like that. And that's the sort of effort that I would put into developing a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan. So each column could be, you start off with a 15-year plan, say, all right, by this point in time, I want to be living here, I want to have this type of house, I want to have this, I want to have a greenhouse, I want to be doing this, I want to have the friends in the school district here, whatever it may be. List it all out, and then you go back to 10 years. Okay, by 10 years I want to have this much of this. By 5 years I won't be able to move there yet because I'm going to have to do these things and get this knowledge base, get this intellectual capital achieved, or this experiential capital. And then when I get to these locations, I need to invest in some of the social and cultural forms of capital as well. And I know I'm referring to some of those topics that I mentioned in yesterday's video. So I'd be real nervous about jumping in right now to any expenditure if I didn't have at least, and I mean absolute minimum, if you know exactly how much money you spend on a cup of coffee, on your heating and cooling bills, on your insurance, on your fuel costs, whatever it is, every single dime, if you don't have at least enough money to cover all of those expenses for 6 months, I would not do anything at this point in time as far as get risky and all. And this is a time where other people, if you've had your money out of the market, we're getting close to a time where I think it's potentially very wise to invest in these disruptive technologies that I've talked about in previous videos and all. And it's kind of crazy. So I think we're going to have a few waves of challenges. So we need to learn from this first wave. We have the leaders of our country right now are going by faith-based, by, I have a feeling maybe this won't hit us. Maybe we don't need to get the factories to start making, hey, GM, like FDR did after Pearl Harbor, said, okay, I need aircraft. I need this place doing aircraft. I need you to make tanks. I need you to make machine guns. I need you to make the ammo for all of these other vehicles. I need you to do the air conditioning system and the ductwork for the aircraft carriers. I need you to, instead of making all these clothes, you need to make these military uniforms. That's what we should have had a couple of weeks ago. There's lots of things that we should have had done, and there's many people. If you're looking at how things have been playing out over time, yes, this is creating more of a crisis where we're not going to be able to flatten the curve, as I've mentioned before in other videos. We're not the only ones who's critical of the way that things are being run. Think about other countries. Think about people who don't have our best interests in mind in the United States. Look, is it obvious to them as it is to us that we're not deploying our resources in an appropriate fashion? Our president is calling this, although it's a pandemic, it's like a war, and so he's a wartime president. That scares me because we need to look at how he's adapting, what steps he's taking right away. And right now, some of our senators have exploited and for their own gain and their own benefit. They've gone ahead and sold off their shares in these more risky things in the market before the market really started making this, I don't know, probably close to 30% drop. We've lost over 3 years worth of gain. Not that this was unforeseen. This is something that was foreseen. I started contacting people on January 24th of this year with my concerns about what's going on and what steps need to be taken, none of which have been taken. So we have many chances to disrupt the spread, and we haven't. We've had more chances to test and segregate to try and halt the spread of this. But this is just the first wave. There will be other waves of the same virus as well. There will also be other pandemics. There's also the climate change and the pressures that are going on. So when I'm looking at where I ultimately want to live, I want to look at, well, is this in one of those fire zones? Is this in one of those flood zones? Is this in one of the areas where we have to worry about mudslides? And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. These are the things that we got to look at and say, well, what are the areas that we shouldn't be moving to? What about water quality and all? Like the pipelines going through different locations, all of these things, and some of the Superfund sites that have been pushed off to the side, and they're leaking into the groundwater as well. So there's so many things to look at to help us make decisions about the location where we want to be living. Yes, I chose to live here. One of the reasons is because of this huge aquifer around the Great Lakes and all. And you know, the truth is climate change has been known for decades. And this area is going to get warmer and warmer as a result. So our winters, and they have been getting much more mild recently as well. So there's benefits to looking to the future and saying 15 years from now, what can we expect at that point in time? Do the research, look at what scientists have been saying about various times in the future as well. Gardening, I've made lots of videos on permanent raised beds, bed orientation, solar aspects, all of those things, the types of soil, composting, all of those things. I'm happy to make more videos about those topics in the future. Depending on what your sources of income are, that's important as well. I would try nowadays in the future, because disruptive technologies are going to change things. And this whole incidence that we're going through now is one of those catalysts that actually changes things drastically. There's going to be more remote learning. There's going to be more assisted remotely. There's going to be more robotics. There's going to be more automation as well. These are all things that are going to change our lives for the better and be safer and create more opportunities for those people who are staying ahead of the game and looking at those potential avenues for investment. But I don't want the things that I've said now to steal your dreams. I just want to give you the direction of use something like Google Sheets or whatever, develop minimally a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan. It's okay to go in and keep modifying that plan as you do further research and say, oh, you know what, this isn't a good place, or you know, this is an area that potentially could be a high crime zone, whatever it may be. And all. And the other thing I would say is, I love YouTube, and I don't care for Instagram as much, and I stopped using Facebook, but social media can give you the false sense that things are better than they are. People often try to show you the best. Yeah, I mean, there's people who I really respect that really do good work, but they'll promote it as, all right, you build this greenhouse, you can grow microgreens, you can make $4,000 a month. And you know, it isn't giving you the full picture. How much work is involved, how many markets will get saturated over the time, looking at a time span, a scope of time that lets us see how much it takes to get here. When people go around our place or they look at some of the drone footage and all, they're often very impressed and all. It's been a lot of commitment, a lot of planning, a lot of dreaming, and a lot of hard work. And to give you an idea, to do the things that I've done around here, I've had a couple of people come by and say, you know what, I want to come and learn a little bit from you and spend a couple of days with you. And the first day I usually take them around and talk about things, bioremediation, permanent raised beds, whatever it may be. I'll go through a few topics, and it's always overwhelming to a certain point because I have so much to say about things. But then when it comes time to do the physical labor, I have yet to have a single person ever here that's come and could stay the whole day working with me. They're exhausted and they can't do it. And I don't think it's my personality that's so terrible. It's the work level, my expectations of myself and of others is higher than what most people would expect. As a clinician, I was the same way. The bar was set here. Everybody needs to try and get to that level. It's acceptable if you're busting your ass and you're really trying to get to that level, but it's unacceptable if you're going to think you're going to cruise down here and stay down here. I give carrots to those people who try and improve, but I don't want them around if they aren't going to try and improve. Okay, I went off on some sidetracks here. Apologize for that. Mary, I don't want to be the big Debbie Downer, as I mentioned before. I want to encourage people to pursue their dreams. Create your dream list. Write it down. Maybe a spreadsheet would be good so that you're not wasting a lot of paper as you modify it. you and your husband go through these things. Get the people that you love and are involved in your life, get their input as well. I'd be real nervous about making any major expenditures right now. We're just going into it now. We're just getting started now. For those people out there who've been waiting on the sidelines and knew that there was going to be a big opportunity, yes, opportunities are coming in where you can invest in various. I wouldn't be investing in many of the index funds and all, or looking for the dividends and all. Technologies are going to be changing rapidly over these next few years, and whenever technologies change, industries change. Medicine's changing. All sorts of things are coming in the future. So I hope this was somewhat helpful. Please let me know if it was somewhat helpful, Mary. I appreciate it. Stay healthy, everybody. Think positive. There's lots of good things that can come in the future. Be aware. Take care of yourselves. These are challenging times. Be mindful of yourself and others. Respect each other as well. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.